Welcome to the nitty gritty. We've got, dare I say, the best looking man on the podcast that we've ever had. His name is Jacob Chrisman. Welcome.
Hey, good to be here.
Good friend of mine, Bishop, power broker, professional, semi-professional basketball player,
Yeah.
D1 basketball, D1 baseball. What else? 6'8".
Father of 5.
Father of 5. Yeah,
that's a full-time job.
that's worthy to talk about.
Husband of Emmy.
We've got to talk about Emmy.
Yeah.
Emmy's here.
Yep, Emmy is basically
Not
like
with
my
us.
twin
Yeah.
sister, right? So yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming.
No, I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
This will be fun because this is a very, very close friend of mine, friend of Andrew's as well, and I've already noticed that I want to just kind of screw around and be irreverent, and so I'm gonna have to control myself today.
Yeah, I have that effect on people. They just want to, tell dirty jokes and giggle. That's what we do.
So Jake is in my phone. So this is I want to hear your story. Here's my story on how I met Jake.
It will be very different.
I'm gonna segue so we can pull this story out that you guys keep mentioning. But I moved back from Arizona in 2012. So I think that beginning of 2012.
Yeah.
Maybe the end of 2011. Anyway, we had been in Arizona for 2 years. We came back. We rented my cousin Trey's house. And Jake lived right across the street. I'd never met him. But you were the EQP, right? You were the elders quorum president in our church, in our ward. I guess we have to clarify all the church talk sometimes. But in our congregation, like where we live, we all go to church together. Anyway, so I pull up with the big U-Haul in front of this little house we're renting, and Jake is there with a big smile on his face with like 20 dudes. I'm not kidding. That truck was completely unloaded and everything put in the appropriate room in like 25 minutes. It was the greatest.
I was one of those 20 dudes.
You were there?
I was there.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't remember that.
It's okay.
That was my first impression, and it was awesome. And so ever since that day, well, not since that day, but over the next few months, I realized that he's a pretty special guy. So he is Jake the Saint Chrisman in my phone. Kind of like Jake the Snake, from WWE,
right.
but just holier. So
less flair.
That's how I met. How did you meet Jake, Andrew?
My story's a little different.
Let's hear it.
So it goes back to high school basketball.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
You got to put some drum roll stuff in here, Brent,
So
afterwards. I can already tell where this is going.
So good.
So Jake's a couple years older than I am, but we were in the same division.
So this is Provo versus
American Fork.
American Fork.
Yep.
Okay.
And I just remember there was a shoe involved.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that was our fans. Provo was way better than us, first of all.
Right.
So when you always get dominated by a team, you got to go low, right? Because you can't
Gotta play dirty.
Yeah, you can't compete on the court, so you got to find somewhere else to go.
Right. Got to get in their heads.
Yeah. So one year, Jake, they were in the state championship. I'll let Jake tell the story because it's way better. I've actually never heard you tell it.
I really have no idea what the story. I've never heard it.
Wow.
So before he tells it, come full circle. I think it was the Pinnacle Basketball League,
Pinnacle Security Basketball League,
way back in the day. And I think it was actually Trey, who was like, "Hey, come play ball."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, yeah, who's on the team?" He's like, "Jake Chrisman." I was like, "Hold on, who?" He's like, "Jake Chrisman." I'm like, "No, pass. I don't want to go play." It was really funny. He's like, "No, dude, he's awesome." Like, hold on, the Jake Chrisman went to Provo? He's like, "Yeah, that guy." I'm like, "Really?" So I love you, but it was really funny. Back in high school,
he was a real dick. Is that what you're
different,
about to say?
You're different people back in the day.
I was the worst.
So
I was for sure on some people's hit list, right? Like Billy Madison, right? The guy marking off.
I'm sure glad I called that guy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
I was the worst.
what happened?
So Jake, tell the story.
Oh, okay. And then you're going to go back to that AF game because I remember that game. That was a heated game. Yeah, kids are young and dumb, and yeah. So this is my sophomore year, and playing for Provo High. It's we were ranked 12th in the nation. Like it was legit. We were good.
Right.
They were really good.
Yeah, we beat Miami Senior in a game, and that had like Udonis Haslam and Steve Blake, right? Two big time NBA guys. But we were at the University of Utah and getting ready for our game, and they put us in the University of Utah basketball players' locker room, right? Well, there was like Mike Doliak's shoes sitting there, and others, and me and a couple of my teammates made a very poor decision as 15, 16-year-old kids and put those in our bag. Not a great idea. So now, fast forward, we play the game. We win the state championship. And as I'm, with my team celebrating and having a great time, like,
Right.
the pinnacle, right?
Right.
Did it. My athletic director comes over and grabs my arm very sternly. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? He's like, you need to come with me. And I knew. I knew exactly what it was.
In the state champion, it was at the U?
It was at the U.
Wait, was that the day you stole the shoes?
Oh, yeah, that was...
So they were in your bag?
Middle of the game. Like, yes.
My God.
The University of Utah basketball players came back mid-game, and their stuff was gone. Because it was in mine and two other guys' bags. Stupid. Yeah. Yeah. This is the Jake that you didn't know.
Oh, I mean, I've heard some stories, but that one's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. To make it worse, we got arrested, right? Yep, they
Really?
called in the university police. We got arrested and handcuffed us and walked us across the court
Just after you won the state championship.
while we're still celebrating.
Oh, my God.
Yep. Right past the Orem High and the Mountain View High teams as they're getting ready to come onto the court to play their championship game.
Right.
So like dudes that I played against for a while
Right.
that maybe didn't like me, like Andrew didn't like me, right? And they got a kick out of that. But yeah, that was poor decisions on my part. Now, fast forward 2 years.
So then what happens? Everyone holds up a shoe.
Oh.
Yep. For the next 2 basketball seasons, that was every team that we played against. That was like their chant or their.
And here's the thing.
gosh.
Back then, they let high school kids be high school kids.
Oh yeah, for
Right.
sure.
And like we got rowdy, right?
Wow.
And so now you don't get to do any of that kind of stuff.
Now you
well,
just
yeah,
do it
'cause
on
it's
social
bullying.
media.
You can't bully people. I'm sorry. I'm like, can I not make fun of like these like trigger hot
Oh,
button words?
listen,
Like,
snowflakes.
yeah,
You can make fun of it
Yeah.
all you want.
yeah. Like I didn't have a
That's
helicopter.
not real bullying.
I didn't have a helicopter mom that like, Karen came out of the stands and like yelled at people. My mom's like, well, you're an idiot and this
You
is what
made
you're
your
going
own
to deal
bed.
with.
It's time.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my memories of Jake and holding up the shoe, and then Jake just going off and
I was gonna say
dominating.
that probably made Jake better. Getting all pissed off.
It did. But yeah, so
That's hard though for a high school kid. You make one stupid little
Yeah, it's
mistake.
a pretty big.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's some shoes.
Yeah, sure.
He's got 37 pairs of them,
Yeah.
and they probably illegally attained them through some shady Nike deal. Anyway, so
They were Adidas.
oh well, same thing. Same thing.
What did you ever do with them?
Well, they were in my bag.
Did they take them back?
Is that how
they
they
took
found
them
it was you? Like they went through everyone's bag when they noticed they were missing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you didn't say like, who put those in there?
Literally
Wow.
caught red-handed. Yeah.
So that was my last memory of Jake before I met him. So after I got home from my mission and played ball and we showed up on the same city league team, that was my last memory of Jake. So they're like, hey, come play ball with Jake. It's like,
So
not so fun fact about that game, that AF game, because it was rowdy. It was at our place, right?
Uh-huh.
That's when you're talking about. It was
Uh-huh.
triple overtime.
Yep.
And Russ kept hitting like threes at the buzzer to
Yep.
push it into further overtime.
who's Russ?
Russ Jepson played ball at AF.
Okay.
Tall, skinny kid could shoot lights
Keep
out.
going in overtime for you. Like you would tie it at the buzzer.
Yeah.
American
Yeah.
fork.
Yeah, Russ,
Okay.
he kept hitting threes and just, yeah. So it was triple overtime was when we finally won. But we're now celebrating in the middle of our court, right? And I was having words with their entire student body section.
Oh my God.
Our resource officer came up and grabbed me and told me to stop and to get in the locker room, and I knocked his hand away. He wanted to arrest me.
Wow.
So I go into the locker room, and then Coach Drury comes in, and I'm pretty sure that's the first time that Coach Drury has said the expletives that he has said in that locker room, because this officer, our Provo High resource officer, wanted to arrest me.
And by a resource officer, it's still a real policeman.
Yeah, he's
just
policeman.
assigned to the school.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Jeez.
It got heated.
People can change, folks.
Yeah, people can't.
This is proof.
And now I love the man.
It's crazy. So what made you change? So you weren't a member of the church. Were you a member of the church at this time yet?
No.
Were you dating Emmy yet?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
So just a punk, really good athlete.
I was just
tall.
I was a really big punk.
Where does that come from? Was your dad like that in his younger years? So your dad, I just learned, this is so funny. We lived across the street from each other for 3 years.
Right.
I did not know his dad played Major League Baseball, played for the Reds.
Yeah.
And you do see that. It's so common for pro athletes to have very successful, kids in athletics.
Sure.
But was he a hothead?
No, he wasn't a hothead. He was competitive. He was very competitive. But no, I was definitely a hothead. My older brother Jed was way worse.
No.
Yeah. Oh, he's yes. Yeah.
That is crazy. So what changed? Was it Emmy?
No, I just grew up. I just grew up. I mean, my freshman year at BYU, I was still, I think Coach Cleveland would consider me somewhat of a loose cannon.
No.
Yeah. I would have conversations with him after games about me not swearing right in front of the cameras because fans were, boosters were getting upset.
Okay, so you get recruited. How many people recruited you? How many schools recruited you out of high school? And why the freak did you go to BYU if you were in LDS?
Yeah, good point. Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had never thought I would ever go to BYU. I was like,
right.
Absolutely not, never. So I was recruited by a lot of the West Coast schools, a couple of East Coast schools, but mostly West Coast and for basketball and for baseball.
Right.
Which did you like better at that point?
Basketball. Basketball.
Okay.
Just the competition side of it, right? I like to compete every day, and that's kind of my mindset.
Because you were a pitcher, right? In baseball?
I was a pitcher. Yeah.
So a lot of times you're just
So in high school it was great because if I wasn't pitching, I was playing first or third, and I was hitting third or fourth, right? But you go to college and you pitch every fifth day or sixth day.
Choose seeds, or maybe in your
maybe
Red Man or whatever.
No, I wasn't. No.
No, that would be boring.
I was at BYU. We didn't do that there.
Oh, that's true. Well, I know a lot of people that do things at BYU. They just, keep it quiet.
Yeah, no. So I was recruited by some really awesome programs. Gonzaga being probably the headline of it.
Wow.
And the day I signed with BYU, I got a call from Coach Few that said, "Hey, are you sure that you really want to go to BYU and not to Gonzaga?" And I mean, looking back at it, if I would have gone to Gonzaga, things would have ended up differently from a basketball perspective.
Right.
But I mean, things ended up exactly how they needed to. I mean, I found my sweetheart enemy, and who knows what path I would have been on otherwise.
Well, based on what I've heard, it wouldn't be a good one.
Yeah, probably very true. Very true. So the reason why I went to BYU, my freshman and sophomore year in high school, my baseball coach was Vance Law at Provo High. My junior year, he got the job at BYU. And so...
Can you think of a better baseball name than Vance Law? Right?
And a dynamite
or
coach.
An actor even. Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that name. Well, anybody around here, but...
Yeah. So BYU was the only school that would allow me to play both.
Huh.
When Cleveland, I was on basketball scholarship, and Cleveland said, yeah, once the season's over with, by all means, go play baseball. And Vance is sitting back saying, hey, I can get a pitcher that's throwing low 90s
Without giving up
a scholarship. Absolutely, I'll take him.
I wonder if people know, like, every team has a limit of scholarships. I've never thought about that. Like, if you're playing two, which one has to foot the bill? You know, because it has to count against one of the teams. So, yeah, that's a huge win-win for the baseball team there.
It'll always count against basketball, or it will always count against football.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because they're the only ones that give out full scholarships. Where baseball, they've got something like 30 scholarships to divvy up amongst, however many players. Not
Right.
30, no, like 18 scholarships or something ridiculous. Like it's all half scholarships.
Gotcha. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's why you go to BYU. Now, so Emmy, we should have brought Emmy in. 'Cause you can't really describe Emmy with words.
Well, sure you can. You just look at this guy.
A female.
That's true.
This
Yeah.
is
We're very similar.
my wife's personality. Right
She was
here.
like, yeah, it was so funny when we lived across the street. Like, you're a lot more like, Ashley,
yes.
which is funny hearing this past side of you that I didn't know about. It's really interesting how much you've grown up. But yeah, Emmy and I would just kind of make fun of people and watch rated R movies. And I miss having her as a neighbor. Wait, so you were at BYU and you met Emmy?
No, we actually met in high school.
Oh.
Yeah. So, follow this chain. My best friend, his name's Eric Red. He had an older sister, Lori, that was dating my wife's older brother, Bryce.
Right.
Washing machine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Bryce would always bring Emmy around Eric's house.
Right.
And I pretty much lived at Eric's house all through high school. So
Okay.
we became friends. I met her my sophomore year in high school. She was a freshman. We didn't date until my sophomore year at BYU.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. She was always
Never
like the
any
little
thought of
sister.
Oh, okay. Just because of that?
Well, yeah. Eric, this is bad. Eric always referred to Emmy as his future wife, like all through
Are
high
you
school.
serious?
Oh, dead serious. Like
I have no idea.
And if he listens to this, he's gonna.
Oh, that
he's
is
gonna,
awesome.
He's gonna be so angry. Eric, I love you. Yeah, and so he, our sophomore year in college, he went on a mission, and I married Emmy.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, bro. It's like, man, you Mormons are at a real disadvantage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and then that's when you decided to. So, you never asked her out because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like bro code stuff?
100% completely off limits. Absolutely not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For the
And I never
left.
looked at her that way either, because it was like,
Stop
that's
it.
Emmy. I mean, she was beautiful. She was gorgeous. That's Eric's future wife.
Oh my God. You can't just lay claim like that. Were they dating ever?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. What? Sorry.
Yeah.
Eric's a good dude, though. I could say
Eric
that.
he's got a heart of gold. One of the best human beings I've ever
That
known.
is hilarious. So, sophomore year, and you decide to ask her out.
Yeah, so she actually put the heat on me. I was over at
What does
Eric's
that mean?
house. Well, I was over at Eric's house one night. She was dating some other person,
Right.
and she shows up to Eric's house with this other person and her brother. And I went up and I gave her a big hug, and genuinely, she's like,
Right,
she was one of
Known
my
her for a while.
friends, right? And she'll tell that, like, she was standing in the kitchen and she would look at the guy she was dating and look at me, look at the guy she was dating, look at me, and she's like, I want to marry a guy like Jake Chrisman.
Right.
And
How
so,
tall was Emmy at this stage in her life? Because she's tall,
Yeah.
right?
Do you know that inside joke? If I say
No.
she's 5'9" and she hears this, she's gonna punch me as hard as she can. She's 5'10". I just don't want to get hit. She was like 5'8", 5'9" then.
Wow.
She hasn't grown
And
very much.
For those of you listening, Jake is 6'8".
Yes,
Right.
correct. Yep. Yeah. So that night, she actually broke up with the guy she was dating, and she told Bryce that what she wanted for Christmas was a date with me. So
What do I want for Christmas?
Is that real?
that's like dead serious, no joke.
Wow.
Yeah,
And that was it.
that was it.
So you started. How long did you guys date?
So our first date was New Year's Eve. in 2001, and we dated, ended up getting married in December 27, 2002. So just shy of a year.
Mm-hmm. Holy smokes! And she was LDS, right?
Yeah, she was. Yep, she was a member of the church.
That's always so. How did that go? Like, for those of you that aren't Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we're in Utah.
Yeah,
a lot of Mormon people here. I still say Mormon. I'm sorry, but I've always felt bad for kids here, especially in Utah County. Like, you're going to Provo High and then BYU, which is a church-owned private university. I've always felt bad for kids that aren't LDS because it's got to be hard. And I mean, when you guys were dating, probably even harder.
Sure.
You know, because things were even a little bit more bubbled off back then. But how did that go with your parents and her parents? And because I also know she had a little bit of she's Italian, so she has a little wild side, right? I've never met an Italian that doesn't have a wild side. But how did that go? Once you guys started getting serious, was that an issue?
For my parents, absolutely not. I mean, my parents are incredibly supportive. Your
parents are awesome.
They're
oh my
great
gosh,
people.
they're so fun.
They taught me.
So are hers.
So I was born and raised in Provo, right, as a non-member, but my parents instilled the same values, morals, essentially the same beliefs. You know, they raised me the way that, you know, I turned out okay, right?
Yeah.
And high school was touch and go. It was touch and go. But dating Emmy, her parents could not have been more supportive or more loving and genuine. You know, her mom.
Did that surprise you?
Sure. Because a lot of my experience growing up, I mean, I dated a couple girls seriously in high school, and their families were somewhat okay with it. There were girls that I wasn't allowed to date at all. If I found if I wanted to take a girl out on a date, there were very, very awful experiences where, sorry, I can't go on a date with you because you're not a member of the church. My parents won't let me.
And this was high school age?
Yeah.
Holy hell.
Yeah. Well, and then even into college too. And I don't want to say that this is, you know, this was wrong, but I see the other side of the coin, and I see how
it was wrong.
Yeah. Well,
I'll say it. I don't have any titles.
I dated. So in college, my freshman year of college, I was dating another girl, and I was dating her. You know, we were pretty serious, and we spent a lot of time together. And you know, she was a member of the church as well. And she came to me one day, and she said, you know, I just so you're aware, I'm not going to get married unless I get married in the temple. And I was like, great, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. We're going to break up now. Because that's not where I was. Like that wasn't something that interested me at the time, or that I was even remotely prepared for or ready for it. You know, the discussion of church and church activity. But Emmy's parents were so supportive to the point where, you know, I'm a traditionalist. I went and I met with her dad in his office at work, and asked him if he would be okay if I married his daughter, and you know, his answer was absolutely no issues, love you to death. You know, he was, again, so supportive. And I asked him straight up, Craig, you understand, you know, I'm not a member of the church. Is that going to be an issue?
Right.
And his response was one that I'll always remember, and one that I hope if my kids are in the same situation, that I can respond the same way. He said, of all the kids, of all the young men that Emmy has ever brought home, you know, that she's dated, you by far have treated her the best. And
wow.
And he didn't care about the church standpoint. He knew that
you had a record.
Charges were dropped. Illegal search and seizure.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah.
I guess it is, right? They're going through your bag. Oh,
I don't love that we came back to that
amazing.
conversation.
This is why I'm on the podcast, though, Jake. I see those little things, you know. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I was getting romantic, but I'm like, even though, did you tell him about your record? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So
it was really, really cool.
Wow.
And a lot of my church experience was not like that, right?
Right.
Before,
for sure.
Like your exposure to
yeah,
members and stuff like that.
right. So that was a breath of fresh air for me, and yeah,
Was that a turning point? Looking
for
back?
sure. For sure. Looking back at it now, that was definitely, it took me on a different path, a different
We help drop
trajectory.
your guard a little bit with that, because that's all. I mean, how many times do people mention that growing up? Like, try to invite you to church. Did that happen quite a bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the time.
Right.
That was, I would go to young men's activities. I'd go to campouts
Right.
and stuff. My dad wasn't there, but, fathers and sons, I would always go with my buddy and his dad,
Wow.
not knowing that I was like a project, right? But I was a project.
Right. As somebody's goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do missionary work.
Right.
Interesting. So you get married.
Yeah. So we got married in, like I said, December 27, 2002. I was playing.
Dude, that December's expensive for you
Yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah.
That was a mistake.
Well, it was that or wait until baseball season was over.
You got to fit it in between sports.
Yeah.
True.
It was
why I like-
winter break.
And one of the people in the relationship is Mormon. So there's another reason to speed it up a little bit. Wink, wink.
I don't even want to elaborate on that.
I always told Mormon kids, once you get engaged, just hurry and get married. We don't do the whole 1 year engagement thing. You can't do that. You guys will just have to do a little research.
she's
on that
gonna-
if you don't know what I'm talking about.
She's going to punch you. And she hits hard, like I
Listen,
told you already.
She knows who I am.
Yep.
She knows how I am. She'll be
She
okay.
loves you as you are.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
Yeah, so it was baseball season. Like we're just ramping into baseball season, and baseball, we were good.
Right.
So you have, you're in your season, and then conference championships, and then we would go to the NCAA tournament. So it would be mid-June before I wouldn't be playing baseball.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, well, let's just get married.
Right.
Let's make it happen. So yeah, December 27th. I played that last. That was my. Now my junior year of baseball, had a terrible year. My focus was elsewhere, like entirely elsewhere.
Where?
On my wife.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
At that point, were you wanting to go pro?
That is real. Sorry. Go ahead. Answer that question. Another.
Yeah, I think yes. I mean, that was like a lifelong dream. I was
Sure.
gonna play pro, but that junior year, I had a shoulder injury where I went from throwing low 90s to throwing like mid to upper 80s.
You were throwing low 90s?
Yeah,
Wow.
94 was the highest that I got clocked at.
Sheesh.
So I just went like essentially throwing batting practice. So my ERA ballooned and had more losses than win, and nobody was going to draft me. So it's like, okay. Now let's think long term. I still had 2 years of basketball eligibility left.
Right.
Emmy and I had just gotten married. It's like let's jump this ship. Let's go somewhere where we can be alone, be together, and figure us out, while at the same time, having a pretty unique and cool experience. So, I had an opportunity to go to BYU Hawaii and finish out my basketball career at BYU Hawaii. 2 years of eligibility, and Emmy and I got to kind of figure things
cool.
out for 2 years on our own, which was amazing.
So why did you? I mean, what was the main purpose of wanting just get away from family and friends and just
Hawaii.
hang out?
Yeah,
well, I know
Hawaii.
Hawaii too. Like was that? I mean, it kind of sounds like sometimes it's easier to transfer, right? Like if you're not getting playing time or whatever else, or was it just for marriage purposes? Like, let's get out of Utah. We can just be by ourselves. And
It really was a fresh start for me.
Okay.
I was a punk, right? I was a punk in high school. And my first couple years at BYU, I was kind of a punk too.
Right.
This was an opportunity for me and Emmy to kind of start fresh, just her and I, away from
The drama.
Happy Valley. I mean, I'm born and raised here. There's a lot of history here.
right.
And then her parents were here, my parents were here, so it allowed us to just be together. And
I think that's huge.
Oh,
I think it's really good for couples to do that.
it was the best thing that we ever did.
Plus,
so for 2 years
Hawaii
we got
doesn't
to
hurt.
yeah, it was the
Right.
beach. It was nice.
Right.
But for 2 years, we got to be starving students and work minimum wage jobs on campus to afford $5 a gallon milk and, and
25-cent ketchup packets at McDonald's.
Yeah, and live in TVA, which was just not, it was interesting. We'll put it that way. But again, looking back, like there's very specific reasons why I went to Hawaii, right? And we moved 6 months after we were married to BYU Hawaii. Moved in August. In beginning of September, Sister Donahue and Sister Chang knocked on the door, and I was ready. I was ready to listen to the message. Absolutely. And
how did you know? Like how did that go? They knocked on I'm really curious
These
about
are
that.
sister missionaries.
Yeah, so sister missionaries knocked on your door. Were they sent to you, or were they just cold contacting you?
Cold contact.
It wasn't a referral.
It wasn't a referral at all. No.
So they just knocked on the door.
Yeah.
And
they knocked on the door. I mean, I had a number of experiences leading up to it where my interest in the church had grown. I had read the Book of Mormon already. Being at BYU, it was kind of required. Yeah. Right. But so I had a professor of the second half of the Book of Mormon. He was also the chaplain because I didn't have a bishop to get an ecclesiastical endorsement to. I'd have to go to him. His name was Paul Warner, and he was part of the athletic department. And Paul challenged me to pray about the Book of Mormon. And so that was really one of the first experiences that I had. And it's like, okay, wow, this is something bigger than what I had anticipated it being anyway. And then the sisters knock on the door, and I mean they were incredible. They started teaching me at the beginning of mid-September, and I was baptized November 29th, 2003. So just shy of a year of Emmy and I being married.
Wow.
Right.
So was Emmy going to church or anything when you guys were first married?
Yeah, and I would go with her. Yeah, I would go with her.
Wow.
I was that guy that had like a gray shirt on or a yellow shirt, short sleeve.
Some chains.
Yeah, my gold chain. No. I didn't have a chain.
Shoes.
No, the chain was.
Oh man,
the chain was underneath the tie.
That's wild. And so Emmy never pushed it, which doesn't surprise me because Emmy's chill like that.
She is.
Wow, so cool. So, and if you're in Utah, I always say that it's harder to be a good LDS person in Utah for some reason because it's just so present.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in everything. So sometimes it's nice to get out of the bubble and you can really start learning about it the right way.
Yeah, to that point, I honestly think it took me leaving Utah Valley.
For sure.
It took me leaving Utah County to really fully understand and realize what it is that I was feeling and what it is that I needed in my life. I mean, I was at a point where I was looking for direction anyway. Emmy and I trying to pave a path forward in our relationship and in our family. But it really took me getting outside of just this cultural aspect.
Sure.
And, I harp on that a lot in my church callings that we need to emphasize more on the gospel, more on Christ and his ministry, and a ton less on the culture side of it.
Right.
Like whatever.
And the card in your wallet.
Yeah. Right. Nobody cares about or we shouldn't be caring about all this superficial cultural stuff with the church.
Right. And it's hard not to here in Utah when when the heavy majority of people are LDS. And so they just look at everything a little bit different.
Sure.
If you do something a little different, you're naughty. Yeah. Although you were kind of naughty as a young man.
I was a punk. I wasn't naughty. I was right. I was a punk. Right? I was too worried about losing a scholarship that I didn't drink, smoke, or have sex. Right.
Right. Well,
my buddies did that were members of the church. I didn't.
It's that old joke. Remember? Just don't invite always invite 2 Mormons instead of just one or whatever. If you invite just one, they'll drink all your beer. Isn't that the joke? You've never heard that? Yeah, never invite just one LDS person to your party. Because they worry more about what the other one will think about them. It's brilliant.
Drew's over here like, oh, yeah, how are we going
Oh,
to
relax, everybody. Jeez, we got to be able to laugh at ourselves. So, what makes this so interesting is 3.5 years ago it's been?
5
It's
years.
been 5?
5 years on the 27th, December 27th.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Jake Chrisman, at what? How old were you 5 years ago?
34.
At 34 was called to be a bishop. Now, for those of you not familiar with our church, what would you call it? The pastor?
Sure.
The king of the ward?
No.
I like the pastor, right? He's the leader of
More
a
appropriate.
what do we call ward? Geographical boundary or congregation. So he is a bishop. And so, which is kind of crazy. I mean, convert to the church.
Right.
Obviously, you didn't go on a mission.
Nope.
And you're a bishop of a family ward, not a singles ward, like a family ward at 34 years old.
Yeah.
So if you ever want to feel small, I'm 6 years old. How much older? Oh, no, you're 39. So I'm only 2 years older than you now. But I'm just mad that you weren't the bishop when I lived there. Of course, it happened after I moved. I could have finally got a lot of things off my chest. I'm just kidding. But it doesn't surprise me at all. And it's just, and maybe on the other side of this, it's hard to tell because, we know each other so well. But, I mean, that's a big deal. And, I mean, to go from the shoe story at 17, 18 to bishop, 15 years later, it's awesome. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And just an awesome family. 4 kids.
5
kids.
Don't forget about Viv.
Listen, that one happened towards the end of the neighborhood. Even though we're trying to get them to move up closer to us, it'll never happen. But yeah, I mean, that's a big change.
Yeah, it was
In a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah, it was a crazy change for sure. It was nothing that nobody can ever be prepared to for the calling,
especially now with COVID and everything. Like us not really in church, people are going a little nuts at home.
Yeah,
it's got to be tough. Different. Well, so let's back up to this. Let's talk. So basketball ends. You play 2 years in Hawaii. Now, were you pretty much set on? You wanted to keep playing, right?
Yeah. I never expected to play beyond college in basketball.
Right.
I never thought that I was ever good enough to do that. Went to BYU Hawaii. We had an awesome team, and we won a lot of games. And so I started getting some exposure and signed with an agent right after the season was done, and had an opportunity to go overseas and play professionally for 4 years, which was really, you just add on to the 2 years that I had in Hawaii, and now add 4 more years, even further away from family, even further away from,
out of comfort zone completely.
Right? Exactly.
It's just proof that when we get married, we all just need to move away. Because they have pretty awesome marriage. Well, you do too. You didn't move away. You're just chill though. Both of you are. Pisses me off. But so 4 years in Germany. Actually, funny side note.
It all came out
in Germany.
It all came out in high school, Cam.
Yeah, well, maybe that's it.
We used it all up.
Listen, I couldn't even walk into the Peaks Ice Arena for a year. Like I was a hothead as well, and this was, I think that was after I got married. Anyway, I'm figuring it out. Okay, leave me alone. But the one time I got lost in a foreign country was because of Jake.
What?
Remember, I went grocery shopping for you to get those chocolate bars.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I go to Germany.
I forgot about that.
So you played ball in Germany, right?
Yeah.
4 years.
Germany for 3 years, Portugal for 1.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm in Germany doing a barbecue thing at this big international trade show. I'm there with Traeger. And when he found out I was going to Germany, he's like, dude, you got to bring me back. He gave me this list of candy. I'm like, done. So like the 3rd or 4th night, I hop in a taxi and I go to this grocery store. And by the time I get there, all the taxis and everybody closed. So I got all my groceries.
And it's not late at night. It's like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it's like 9 or 10 at night.
Stop running.
But dude, so I go out to where the taxi dropped me off and nobody's there. Like no taxis are coming by. I was freaking out. I was like, I had no clue where I was. I had Google Maps out. So I start walking, trying to get to the train, like the subway.
Are you able to communicate at all with anyone?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you just assume that no, right? And so I buy all these groceries. I've got a backpack on, and I'm walking through neighborhoods at 10:30 at night in the pitch dark. No freaking clue if I'm in a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood. Oh my gosh, that was a stressful night. So I walked back to the grocery store, and I walked a little customer service desk like we have here, and I'm like, do you speak English? She's like, yeah, what's up? Like, oh my gosh. And so many people speak.
Everybody under the age of 50 speaks fluent English.
And she's just like, oh yeah, you need to ride back to the hotel. She made a call, and that was it. She was so nice. She's like 60. She was probably 60, but she was all tatted up. Like, anyway,
That's
super nice
funny.
lady, but I was
Just
freaking out.
Didn't even think to ask at first.
No, and it was all because I wanted to get the Chrismans their candy bars that they wanted. So yeah, it's a fun little connection. You going to Germany?
Emmy. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was that candy.
right.
That candy was all for Emmy. Choco and cakes, Milka, and then these Haribo
Right.
gummy bears, but they're like moons. Best candy. Best candy.
So good. So yeah,
And you can only get them like in Germany.
that's so funny. Where were you in Germany?
So first year we were in Essen, which it's northwest corner. We were about an hour and 30 minutes away from Amsterdam.
Okay.
Like that far northwest. So you have like Cologne and then Dusseldorf and then Essen.
That's where I was Cologne.
Yeah.
Place is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Really, really ugly.
It is really ugly.
Because
It
everything
was all flattened, right?
everything was
during the
all
war.
flattened. Yeah. So you ride elevators and you see like the brand is like Tyson Krupp, like those elevators, right? So Krupp, he was a industrialist. Like he owned a bunch of factories in that area, doing metal production.
Right.
And Hitler had him transition all of his factories into armament, right? So he would build like
Wow.
armament for tanks and other vehicles. And so the Allied forces just came in and just
Just
leveled
pictures
everything.
of
Destroyed it.
Cologne are wild. It's like
There's-
that church is still
Yep,
the
the
dome is still halfway
Yep.
standing, but it for miles
Just
around
everything is gone.
Just
huh?
Everything.
it, flattened.
And then they rebuilt everything as fast as they possibly could. And so it just all looks the same. It's all the same color.
We had to
monotone.
evacuate. Half of our hotel was evacuated while I was there because they found a warhead.
Really?
that hadn't exploded. Like I guess in Cologne it happens it's like a daily occurrence. They'll find unexploded ordnance all
So
over
that-
the place.
the dome, that giant cathedral that's
that church
in
was
the
unreal.
in the middle of Cologne. It's gorgeous. I mean,
Right.
it's amazing. But the only reason why that's still standing is because the Allied bombers would use that as kind of like to line them up
That's
for their
wild.
run. So they would line up with the dome, and then when they passed over the top of the dome, then they would drop. So it was kind
It's
of
like their
this-
point of reference.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's a crazy place, but Germans are pretty fun. They're interesting people.
Yeah, it
So I
was,
bet living there would actually be kind of cool.
it was an awesome experience.
Was it hard to give it up? Like, was it hard to stay like to stop hooping, like play
Oh
ball?
yeah, that was talk about depression, right? Like doing something that you've done your entire life, and then all of a sudden you're sitting at a desk. Like that was rough.
Well,
You
doing
know?
something that defines you,
Right.
you know?
And then trying to figure out or understand, who am I and what really defines me, right? Basketball, I thought defined me, but it didn't. And so, it was this really late in life learning process about, all right, what is it that I want to accomplish? Who is it that I want to be?
And a lot of guys actually never like get over it.
No. Hey, Latrell Sprewell is still in China.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Sprewell is still in China.
He still has debts to pay, probably. Isn't he the one that had spent all of his money?
Yeah, like building spinner rims. Yeah, that was Remember those were a thing.
Oh
Spinner
my
rims.
gosh.
I remember
We're a thing.
first summer in Chicago, pulling up next to the van,
Yeah.
and the van stopped and the wheels didn't.
No.
It was just like, what is going on?
Oh my gosh. Wow. So did you come back when you finished with basketball? Did you come straight back to Utah?
Yeah, so we would come back during like
Off season.
yeah, during off season, during the summer months, and I do my workouts and stuff, and then I head back into August, September. Yeah, we did that for 4 years. But then, yeah, after I was
You were still pretty young though. So what made you decide to stop?
injuries.
Oh,
Yeah. I was fairly injury free my entire career until my second year in Germany. I blew out my knee, ACL, MCL, lateral meniscus, and then my fourth season when I was in Portugal, same injury. Both of them just freak accidents.
Right.
Not really, nobody's ACL could have survived it. There was a guy your size flopped on me one time. My second year in Germany.
230 pounds.
Yeah,
Wow. That's a big
just shy of that. Yeah.
Oh, kilos. You're right. My bad. I apologize. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So yeah, it was my second, like the first time I did it, I rehab, went through kind of the emotional and mental experience of coming back to the game, which was hard.
That's hard.
But I had
It's so
motivation,
scary.
right? I had that motivation that, I want to play again, so I'm going to play again.
Were you ever trying to get to the NBA?
I wasn't good enough. After college, I had workouts with some NBA teams, but I wasn't that caliber of a player. So, I would have loved to, but that wasn't a reality. But yeah, then my second time during whoa, geez. That's weird. Should have warned me about that. It's like everything.
Well, I didn't think you'd be flopping your hands everywhere. Jeez.
I'm married
big
to an
galoot.
Italian. This is like
That's true.
Anyway.
So the second time it happened.
Yeah, second time it happened, we had already had Nico, who's my oldest, my only son, and Emmy was pregnant with Mel,
Right.
and so it's like, all right, now I'm staring down the barrel of another like 10 months of rehab. My wife is pregnant. We're gonna have a baby. Medical bills are not cheap.
Right.
It's time to let it go and find something that can pay the bills.
Huh. So did you jump into what you're doing now right away, or did that?
Yeah, like right away. And it was
Really?
again, the Lord's hand in everything. It's wild how it happened. We got home in January. I had surgery January 10th. I'm doing my rehab. My brother-in-law, who works for a company called Deseret Power up in Sandy, he says, "Hey, I don't know what your plans are with basketball, but there's this job opening with this company that we do business with. If you're looking for something, this might be something you should take a look at." I was like, "Oh, okay." At this time, I was contemplating of going back to school and going the physical therapy route. Nah, that didn't work. I hated school.
That'd be so hard
Yeah.
to go back to. I never went to college, so I don't know. But if it's anything like high school, I would hate it.
It's exactly like high school.
You're playing pro ball in Germany, then going back to school. That would suck.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I decided to interview or apply and I got an interview. So I interviewed for that job and interviewed well, I guess. They hired me on and I've been with them for 12 years now.
Look, your height, your looks. That played a part too.
So true.
He's a very attractive man.
Very true story. My boss, Scott, who you've met before,
Yeah, Scott's
the
awesome.
nicest human being
For sure.
in the world, next to Eric Red.
Right.
Scott just lays it.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound good.
Scott just laid it out straight for me. He said, we had 10 interview spots for this position, and you were number 11. I was like, oh, cool. Why did you interview me? I'd never interviewed a professional basketball player before.
Is that what he said?
That was it. And the other people on the interview panel are like, "What are you doing? Like, you're wasting our time." He's like,
Right.
"I don't care. I've never interviewed a basketball player before. I want to ask him some questions." So,
Did he talk basketball during the interview?
yeah, he totally did.
Really?
Totally did. Yeah.
And so you had no experience, but they gave you the job.
Zero experience.
Wow.
Guys that had degrees in economics or finance or even MBAs that had applied, and here's me, exercise physiology degree. I know nothing about energy. Sign me up.
But hey, if you have a company basketball team,
Yeah,
might
exactly.
be good.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other part of the reason why I wanted you to come, because I've always found it. I don't think any of us ever really think about what you do. You know, what you do for a living has a lot to do with all of our daily lives, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what is it that you do?
So
Or maybe describe it to.
yeah,
I mean, I know what you do, but
yeah, it's a world that really not very many people know exists, right? So everybody goes and they'll walk into a room and they'll flip on the light switch, but where does that energy come from? I work for a company called Utah Municipal Power Agency, and we provide the wholesale electricity to 6 cities here in Utah: Provo, Spanish Fork, Salem, Nevi, Levan, and Manti. And what that means is we're the entity that owns power plants, transmission lines. We generate the electricity, we deliver it to the city, and then the city distributes it to their end user.
wow.
So like here at the restaurant, you pay your bills to Rocky Mountain Power, right?
They suck.
Their rates are not great.
Well, it's not even the rates. Whatever they do to make power sucks.
Oh, you guys
My
know
power
that.
goes out 3 or 4 times a year.
That's right.
It's crazy. It's just this air. It's just these like 3 or 4 square blocks. I don't know if it's just old infrastructure or
Yeah,
what.
probably.
But, it drives me insane. Anyways,
Yeah, so Rocky Mountain Power they're the distribution arm. They deliver it to the end user. They have a parent company called Pacificorp that's based out of Portland, Oregon, and that's the level. That's who I deal with. So for the first 10 years of working at UMPA, I was an energy trader. So I would buy and sell electricity power on the open market.
that is wild. So how does that work? Like
Yeah.
we're like buying and sell, like we need a little extra power here, so we're going to buy it, or we've produced a little extra so we can sell it.
Right? Exactly.
Weird.
Yeah. So it says, I mean, electricity is instantaneous, right? So the second somebody flips on a light switch, there's a generator somewhere that is ramping up or producing,
creating it.
those kilowatt hours to power the lights, and it's instantaneous.
Right.
Do most cities operate in like in surplus or deficiency?
So cities kind of operate flat,
Okay.
right? It's the wholesale provider, us, Pacificorp, and others here in Utah, that operate in that surplus or that deficit. And those are the other counterparties that I'm buying and selling with, or that I was buying and selling with when I was on the trading floor. So the analogy that kind of makes the most sense, at least I've seen it makes most sense. Imagine you have like this giant swimming pool, right?
Right.
And the swimming pool represents like electricity demand. So you have people that are around the pool that are pouring water into the pool, right? That would be like the generator. Those would be the producers that are putting electricity on. And then you have people that are scooping water out. And those are the end users, right? And the pool,
Like all of us.
yeah. Yep, that's us flipping on light switches. Or
And leaving them on all day, like my children and wife.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
constantly scooping that water.
Don't ever go downstairs.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
It's so I've totally turned into my dad.
Oh, me too.
Like my dad was always like, turn off all the lights.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, settle down. And now, like, I walk into a room, I'm like, light off.
Yep.
Light off. Like I just walk around the house turning off lights. That's like all I do.
You're building a new house, right?
yeah.
Just put in occupancy sensors.
Seriously.
Like instead of having light switches, like there's a sensor when somebody walks in the room, the light turns off, and then when there's no motion in the room for a period of time, it'll shut
or
off
we need
automatically.
switches that shut down
You'll be a
one
lot
whole
happier.
floor.
I know. I can stop.
You'll be way
turning off all
happier.
the-
Way happier. Like, especially the basement. Like I always said, we should just have a switch at the top of the stairs of the basement
It turns it all
that
off.
turns all of it off. No, I make the same lap. I wake up, I get dressed, and before I go downstairs, I start with Hannah's room, Cohen's room, walk through their Jack and Jill bathroom, Taya's room, and then I go downstairs. Like I literally have to turn off everything.
Like you go down there and it's like our storage room lights on. It's like, guys, what are we even?
Who was at the storage room?
What are we even doing here?
We're making Jake more money.
Not me, because you also pay your bills to Rocky Mountain Power, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. So,
that's Warren Buffett. You're making Warren Buffett richer.
oh man, he could use it. He's not at the top of the list right now.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Is the data there, like what months you're going to have extra, or are there months where you produce extra on purpose because there's other places that are going to want some?
You should be a power broker.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I own a barbecue restaurant.
It clicked. You get it. Yeah. There are months where, I mean, it's economics, right? The supply is greater than demand, and those would be the months where nobody's air conditioners are running, that it's not super freezing outside. March, April, beginning of May, October, a little bit of November, right? It's kind of just mild here in Utah. But the other months where it's either really cold or really hot, that's when you see demand screams and supply is playing catch up to it. I mean, the big issue this last year in August was the rolling blackouts in California.
Right.
And
the fires.
It was because of the fires, but also, I mean, politics and shutting down of power plants that they need. They absolutely need. So yeah, the highest demand times in the summertime. And
so like, if you ever made a mistake, like a bad trade, like what was the consequence of that?
it's usually just financial.
Okay.
Yeah. So nothing that we do would ever like turn somebody's lights off.
It's like you're not going to cause a city to like run out of power.
Right. Exactly.
But
exactly.
could you?
No.
You don't have the password?
No, I don't have the password.
I would have some fun with that.
We don't have like a big red button that you just push and all the lights go out. It doesn't happen.
I just think if you could plug in an address, that would be awesome. Like, hey, suck it.
You're done.
They cut me off. Anyway. Wait, so how far away can you send? Because you have the 6 cities.
Yep.
Where's the power produced? Like close by?
Yeah. So our power plants, our generators, we have one that's in Provo City, like downtown Provo. It used to be like the 2 big white smokestacks.
Oh yeah.
That are no longer there. There's a newer power plant there. We have.
So their generator. What do they run off? I mean, are they like?
Those are natural gas.
Natural gas. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super. They're the cleanest running natural gas generators in the state of Utah.
God, those have to be some big ass generators.
Yeah,
seriously.
Those ones are small. They're like big diesel engines, but not diesel.
But I mean, still, that's got to be a ton. Like you just think. I think of my diesel generator that runs the food truck out there. Like that wouldn't run a whole house.
No. Yeah, they're big. They're big.
Sheesh.
We have a really big natural gas facility in West Valley. So if you've ever been to USANA Amphitheater, on the northeast corner, you can see 5 smokestacks. That's our West Valley generator.
Oh, wow.
Generating station. And then we have a bunch of hydro. The newest resource that we just closed on is a large solar project, 80 megawatts, which doesn't mean anything to anybody when I say megawatts.
I'm like, what does that mean?
What is like the most sought after energy right now? Is it solar?
Oh, absolutely. Hands down. Yeah. Everybody's pushing solar, especially California.
Is there a reason? Is it more trendy, or is there like a legitimate reason that should be what everyone's going after?
So from a renewable energy standpoint, I think we can all agree that polluting less is a good thing. Right. And I don't want to get into the debate of global warming and all that. But
it's real.
But just pollution in general, right? Is the less pollution, the better.
For sure.
One of the problems that you run into with renewable energy, especially wind, is it's so variable. You don't know with certainty when the wind's going to blow. You do know with certainty when the sun's going to shine. So that's what makes solar that much more valuable is you know exactly when the sun's going to be up. Now, yeah, there's cloud cover and you might not get the best production, but you still know the sun's going to shine.
Yeah.
Right. So you can plan for it a little bit better.
So is that what everyone's trying to either build or transition to?
Yeah, so there's been a big push for solar, especially in California or people that are feeding energy into California, which we do a little bit. We like to monetize our projects at their rates,
Oh, that's
it's
awesome.
Great. So our surplus, we'll sell it to California and make.
So I was going to ask, like physically, how far away can you sell? I mean, that's wild. So I think of it like water. like opening up the dam and sending it down the river. I mean, you could actually physically send electricity to California.
So, yes.
Is that what it is? I mean,
yes, you can. Yes. But when we do transactions, again, it's that pool analogy, right?
sure.
Somebody might be
You're just
dumping.
cranking up the generator.
Somebody might be dumping water in on that side of the pool and pulling water out of this side of the pool. The pool is still staying balanced.
I see.
Right? That's the grid staying balanced.
So,
But it's not like my generator is sending electrons straight to California.
so weird.
It's like water. It's path of least resistance. The first light switch that's closest to that generator is the one that's going to be using those electrons.
That's wild. I'm kind of confused now.
Yeah, it's
So what are they buying? Like if electricity is not going from here to there,
they're paying us for putting energy onto the grid so that they can then take it off of the grid.
oh, I see.
So that the grid stays stable, stays.
See, that's the weird thing. You always think of it as kind of storage. Like, where are we storing all this electricity? It's not like you can store it.
Yeah,
It's just the generator's cranking up a gear or two.
right. Exactly.
So what's Christmas like? Or I guess summer would probably be
Yeah.
hardest on
Summer
on the grid.
is by far the hardest, just because
ACs pull so much power.
Yeah, ACs are cranking.
Like
Yep.
how often are there ever like power droughts
Y-
like you have with like water? I mean, we talked about like the blackouts of California. Was that like a drought because there wasn't enough going into the grid?
Right. Yep. There wasn't enough production available, and so they had to selectively shut customers off. Right. Sorry, we don't have enough energy. We haven't planned our system, and I'm saying UMPA, California hasn't planned their system well enough. So we're just going to have to
Shocking.
turn off your power for an hour. Sorry, it's 102 degrees outside. Deal with it. Wow.
Does that happen often?
No, it doesn't. And this year was one of the hottest years ever on record. Plus, we had a bunch of infrastructure in California that was down because of the fires, and consumption was up. Everybody was home, right?
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it really was a perfect storm, and it led to these scenarios that weren't planned for. So California's governing body over energy now gets to have a one-on-one relationship with the federal government to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Can we just split them off of our country? California and New York, just like cut them off, like float them out, be an island.
They'd still charge you taxes.
Yeah. Oh, I grew up there, but that place.
You heard about that, right?
What?
What Governor Newsom proposed?
Oh no.
I mean, he's been on this for a little bit, but if you move away from California, they are trying to tax you for 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They're trying to stop the mass exodus.
And it's just going faster.
Yeah.
How stupid. Did he think of that at the French Laundry? The fancy restaurant he was eating at a few months ago?
Without
He was
a
locking everyone in their house.
Mm-hmm.
So with any of your solar farms, are you trying to actually store energy? Do you have like a battery system, or is it all, do you just pump it like straight into the grid?
We just pump it straight into the grid. So what's unique about our company is we're public power, right? Every decision, every transaction that I made had a direct consequence or benefit to the end user, right? And that's why I love UMPA so much, and why I love what I do so much is that altruistic nature. Like, I know that the decisions that I make have an impact on the end user, grandma and grandpa, mom, dad, right?
You're a hero.
In the form of the
With
cost
my
of their
air
power.
conditioning,
Right,
with
right.
my air conditioning, I couldn't live without you.
So when our
I
electric
know
bill goes
our-
really high, you did a crappy job of trading.
Yeah, except you're Rocky Mountain Power.
Or they
so
made it.
sorry,
She has a ton of money.
Yeah, and so being a public entity, right? We're nonprofit. We don't keep any of those margins, right? Those margins are returned back to the cities in the form of a rate reduction. So they end up paying less. Yeah, that's
That kinda sucks.
no.
You
It's
should get a bonus for doing a good job.
well,
Oh, you do? Okay, good.
Let's make sure not-for-profit does not mean they don't make profit.
That's true. I always, it's funny. Everybody always throws around the term, like, we're nonprofit.
Yeah.
I made 1.3 million, but we're nonprofit. I just got a new Mastercraft. It's beautiful,
We have,
but we're saving children.
yeah, and we have 0 retained earnings, so not for profit.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. Oh wow, so interesting. It's just funny because you hear like your story with basketball, and I mean, it's just further proof. We talk a lot about it in here. You know, that whole. I mean, I'm sure going to college benefited you. You know, you have this
Exercise
piece of
physiology.
paper, but like you're doing. Would you have ever imagined that? You know,
Never.
it's an important job, and I'm sure it is. It's fast paced, and it's always moving and changing, and it's just really cool. It's like doesn't matter what you're doing. Like if
That's one of the reasons why I love it so much is it is dynamic, right?
Right.
There is so much change, and it allows me to be like exercise that competitive nature that I have, right?
Sure.
I'm competing against other marketers in the West and doing transactions, trying to find the best deal and trying to make the best deal and all while serving the end user and keeping costs as low. You asked if we store any of that. No, we don't. And the reason being, again, end user in mind, storage, the cost of storage right now just doesn't, it's not economically, we're not economically incentivized to do that for our member cities. Once storage becomes more readily available and cheaper, just like solar,
Meaning like the technology's not there yet. Like the batteries aren't efficient enough to store it.
right? And production of it is not on a large enough scale where it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Right. Solar used to be there. I mean, solar 5 years ago, it was $80, $90, $100 per megawatt hour. And
is there any way to give us an analogy on a megawatt?
so your home uses about a megawatt per month,
Oh, okay.
right? So
Mine's like 1.5
so yours, with the pool,
with my air conditioning
pool.
and my swimming pool. It's not a big deal. It was there when I bought the house. Okay.
Keeps it a toasty 92 degrees
No,
year.
listen. That's what Mama Bear tries to do. I like 86. Okay. It's just right.
Lake Powell, got it.
Yeah. That's wild.
So do you feel like the residential storage of power is efficient enough? You know, like all the Tesla people are trying to store, like go completely off the grid, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that there yet, do you think?
How does that affect you too? Like all these people getting solar, like,
Yeah,
'cause those aren't people taking
Right.
water out of the pool.
Right, exactly. It affects us on a kind of a long-term planning and forecasting perspective, right?
Is there financial impact to you?
Sure. I mean, there were generators and transmission that were built to serve these homes long term, right? And that there's a huge argument about net metering, and we can go down that rabbit hole another time. But yeah, there's those are dollars that are not being recovered by the utility, and you know it affects everybody, right? Because if customer A chooses to serve all of their energy needs from their own house, well, those fixed costs are being shared among all the other customers in that same city.
Right.
So, luckily, it's at a small scale. Like we don't have a renewable portfolio standard like California does, where we need to be 100% renewable by 2030. So that keeps the incentive of putting rooftop solar on down a little bit. Plus, our rates are way too cheap to even begin to incentivize people to put panels on their roofs.
Is that something where, like, if you're planning on moving or building a house, is that something that people should look into? Like, is there a difference or that big of a difference in rates? But like, if I move to a city that has
Sure.
you as the company providing the power,
Yeah.
is that, because we look at property taxes, we look at things like that, but has anyone ever thought about where does the city get their electricity from
Yeah.
and how much does it cost?
Yeah, that's something you should
Really?
you should be aware of, at least, especially if you're going to be putting in a heated swimming pool, or you've got two giant air
Basketball
conditioners,
court.
right? Yeah.
That's a lot of airspace to keep cool, especially when I come over, Andrew.
But to your point, Andrew, about putting batteries in homes, my personal feeling, when I build my next house, I'll have battery and I'll have likely a natural gas generator.
You'll do both.
Yeah, I want to do a generator too.
My dad just did a generator.
Really?
Yeah.
The reason being, if you just have solar battery, right? If the power goes out in the city and your battery is dead, your solar panels won't do anything, right? Because there has to be energy butting up against your meter in order for that to work, and it's not gonna work. So, yeah,
We'll do both.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to move to a city that UMPA covers?
Mm-hmm. I want to, but where are the lots at? Let's talk to some of your listeners, people that have lots available. We're looking, and there's nothing out there. And you guys are moving to a prime area that there's nothing out there, right? All those lots they're picked up.
You could move to Wallsburg, build the compound.
Good.
I need to get out of here. I can't do it anymore. Too many people. That's really crazy. It's funny that you never think about where your power comes from.
No.
Right? Like you just expect the bill. It is what it is, but you can actually save money by moving. I mean, power costs are different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and UMPA, the company I work for, ours are the lowest in the state.
Wow. All right, let's go to Levathan. Is that how you say it?
Levan.
Yeah, that. Levan.
Naval backwards.
I think Levathan sounds better, personally.
I'll let you have that conversation with them.
Well, it's funny. I think it's really fascinating because it's just part of your everyday life that none of us ever think about.
Sure.
So I think it's really, really interesting because
you only notice it when it's not there, right?
For sure. Yeah, like when Bam Bam's loses power for 3 hours on a Saturday at noon. Oh, I hate Rocky Mountain Power so much. If you're listening, suck it. Okay. Well, dude, that was really interesting.
I don't hate Rocky Mountain Power.
Listen.
I've got to be a little more diplomatic than that.
They probably send some money your way. I get it. Well, dude.
Thanks for coming on, Jake.
So cool.
Yeah.
I mean, really is a cool story. And I wish Emmy was here too, because that would be pretty. You guys are such an interesting
she's
pair.
the life of the party, that's for sure.
You guys are, but you both are, but you are different.
Oh, very.
But yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, what you're doing for a living, I think a lot of people struggle with that. Who would have ever thought that you get into trading power?
Right.
Well, it just shows you just go for it.
You just go for it. And you can learn anything. Like, we're smart.
Mm-hmm.
If you're motivated. I mean, he was just an athlete with a record. And, look what he's turned himself into. Now he's a bishop.
I love that this is on the airways now. I love it. This is so good.
I knew Emmy would marry a criminal. I just knew it. Those Italians, they like bad boys, man.
They are.
Oh, you're
She
awesome.
is.
Well, thanks for coming, brother.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it.